Hi, it's Alex from Android Central, and this is the Galaxy S4 Mini. As the name suggests, the Galaxy S4 Mini is a smaller version of Samsung's flagship, the Galaxy S4. It's got a 4.3-inch screen and a much smaller chassis, and that means it's easier to hold and a bit more manageable to those with smaller hands and smaller pockets. The overall design is almost identical to that of the bigger GS4. We've got a flat glass front with a diamond pattern surrounding the screen, big clicky home button under the display, flanked by capacitive menu and back keys. And up top is your Samsung logo and metal speaker grille. Around the sides, just like the full-size S4, is a metallic-looking but decidedly plastic trim. It's pretty flat, which makes it easy to hold. On the left and right sides, you've got power and volume keys. The proportions are almost identical to the larger GS4. It is a little bit thicker at 8.9mm. On the back, things are pretty familiar. The white version has this reflective pattern and an ever so slightly protruding camera, 8 megapixels on the Mini versus 13 on the S4. Behind the back cover is a 1900 mAh battery, and behind that you've got microSD and microSIM slots. We should also point out this is a 4G LTE phone, as evidenced by the Qualcomm 4G sticker up top. So while we're getting everything back together, let's talk specs. The S4 Mini is powered by a Snapdragon 400 CPU, technically a mid-range chip, but more than powerful enough for this kind of phone. You've also got 1.5 GB of RAM and 8 GB of internal storage. And that's kind of problematic because the preloaded OS takes up a significant chunk of that, almost half in fact. In the storage menu we see we've got just over 4 gigs left, and that's just with starting the phone up and applying the updates that were waiting for us. You can of course expand your storage with a microSD card, and certain apps can be moved to the SD card to free up space, just like on the GS4. But there's no card bundled with the phone, and considering the price, 4 gigs remaining for all your stuff really isn't a whole lot of anything. Something else to point out is that the screen, which is a QHD Super AMOLED panel, that means the resolution's a lot lower than on the S4, and that's something that you're going to notice in apps with a lot of small text like email or the browser. Resolution aside, it's not a bad looking screen. Colours are just as bright and vivid as we come to expect from AMOLED panels, although it is a tiny bit darker than the 1080p screen in the S4. It is just as usable in direct sunlight. So onto software, and again there's a lot here we've already seen before. The S4 Mini is running Android 4.2.2 Jelly Bean and Samsung's latest TouchWiz UI, so it's much the same experience you get on the Galaxy S4. And that extends to performance as well. On the latest firmware, the S4 is a very speedy phone, and the same applies to the Mini. Animations are smooth, touch is responsive, and apps are very quick to load. In fact, we say the average user probably wouldn't notice any difference in performance going from the S4 to the Mini, despite the differences in internal hardware. TouchWiz itself is just as customizable and almost as feature-packed as ever. You get the excellent TouchWiz camera app, the calendar app with a great full-screen widget, the S-Voice Assistant app, and Samsung's own S-Translate app. You also get Group Play, which lets you share music or photos with other Samsung devices in real time. It requires a bit of setup, but once you start it, it's easy enough. For music, you can assign different speaker locations to each phone, and for photos, you can scroll through on both devices. Watch On is included too. This is Samsung's Peel-based TV app, which hooks into the IR blaster on the top of the device and lets you control the TV from the phone. That all works just as well on the Mini as it does on the larger model, including the ability to automatically track your favourite shows based on what you're watching. First impressions of the S4 Mini's camera are that it's a pretty decent 8 megapixel unit. You of course get the Galaxy Camera inspired camera app with this wheel of different shooting modes to choose from, all kinds of real-time filters, although it is lacking the ability to use the front and rear camera at the same time in the way that the S4 can. In fact, it might be easier to talk about what you don't get on the S4 Mini compared to its big brother, and there are a few features missing, but really nothing we consider mission critical. You don't get Air View, that's the feature that lets you hover over the touchscreen to view previews of certain things. Air Gesture is missing too, so you have to scroll through photos and other stuff the old-fashioned way using the touchscreen. Multi-window is out too, so you're limited to just one app at a time. That's likely because of the lower screen resolution. So ultimately the GS4 Mini is a compromise. You get a smaller, more hand and pocket friendly device, and there's plenty of people asking for that. You get a lot of the features of the full-size Galaxy S4 with the exception of some of the flashiest stuff, and of course performance is just as speedy as that phone as well. But the major weaknesses of the S4 Mini have to do with the screen and the internal storage. Going back to QHD in 2013 is hard, and you're going to notice jagged edges and lack of detail in photos and text. It's also surprising to see Samsung's Mini with a 960 by 540 display, especially when other manufacturers are coming out with mid-range phones with 720p panels. At the same time, even though there's the option of expandable storage, 4 gigs and change is a woefully small amount of space to be offering out of the box. Again, close to half of the advertised 8 gigs is taken up with the OS and basic apps. So the Galaxy S4 Mini is a decent phone, but it's not without its unique quirks and issues, and we're going to put it through its paces in the next few days and bring you a full review. Until then, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.